Okay, welcome to Roles and Responsibilities. If you are following along in your workbook, it's pages 6 through 8. And in your manual, you want to check on anything or go any deeper, pages 12 through 19. Alright, so what does the POM describe? Now, the POM is the Patrol Operations Manual, and it describes the patrol systems used by your specific club to correctly patrol your specific beach. Each POM is shaped for that space, for your specific geographical needs, for your specific radio setups, for the specific equipment that you have there as well. And why is it important? Obviously because it as a minimum, it states the minimum patrol hours your club will complete through the season, which impacts funding given by Surf Life Saving New Zealand. But again, it also has some really important information. If I'm guarding at a beach for the first time, doesn't matter where it is, the first thing I'm going to look at is their POM. I want to see what their hazards are, and that'll be recorded in the POM. If you breach the POM, you can get funding withheld. I mean, if we didn't do the minimum amount of patrol hours through the season, then what would be the point in them giving us money in the first place? Alright, what's in the POM that directly affects patrolling at our beach? Well, things like, it's all about our specific patrol actions. So how long, for example, it takes for police, helicopters and ambulance to get there, where our normal landing pads are as well. That's a handy one. I mean, if you know at our beach that you're going to be waiting 60 minutes, possibly for an ambulance, it might change where you leave your patient. I mean, are we going to keep working on our working with our patient who has that broken leg and they're cold and it's a rainy day on the beach? We know we're waiting 60 minutes. Why not check with the ambulance first and move them back to our surf club? It's got important contact information. If you break something in the club, then you can contact the gear steward. If you need the park ranger to speak to some people who are, being idiots on your beach, or you want to refresh on the off lead and on lead areas on the beach, then you've got the park ranger's number in there. If you need to call people in the call out squad, or maybe you're a bit short for patrol members, you can also utilize the people in your call out squad for that as well. Patrol operations, and like I said before, geography. There are maps inside your POM which state where everything is, and it's really handy to know not just the actual names of some of these places, but the colloquial names as well, the names that people refer to it. So Koto Point, which is our crossroad caves, locals refer to that, for example, as Red Rocks. Erangi Point, that one's pretty obvious. That's our main swim through cave. But if you ever hear anyone talking about the wire, there used to be a fishing wire across the mouth of the cave that we swim into to get fishermen across, and they realised that it was just too dangerous, so they took it away. The gut is also known technically as Crayfish Bay. And then for a while as Crayfish Gut, and then it just got shortened to the Gut, but that sits between Koto Point and Erangi. Old Man's Head is what we refer to, its real name is Puke Kowhai. So there's a whole lot of really important stuff in there. When we're looking for our GPS coordinates, that's also in our POM as well. Our patrol capabilities, how many lifeguards we actually need to patrol our beach. Why is it important to wear uniform on your patrol? Well, we want to make sure that the public are aware that patrol is operating, and that creates a good public perception when we look professional, of course. It also helps people understand that if you've got a lost kid, they know who to go to because you are dressed as a lifeguard. It also honours our sponsors that help with funding. I mean, what would be the point in them funding us if we didn't rep them in a good way. Now, in saying that, I've got this little video here for you, and it's about looking professional. Put it in context. In the States, if you're a surf lifeguard, you are to be clean shaven, to the point where some beaches, if you have, stubble, will actually bring a shaver to your tower and make you shave on the spot. Some beaches require you to have your shirt tucked into your board shorts. So, yeah, if that might help with understanding this little ad. Obviously in New Zealand we don't go that far, but looking clean and tidy and looking professional means people will actually treat you a bit better too, which is always a good thing when we need people to listen to us, especially in dangerous situations that we can have on our beach. So obviously, why is it good to have a good public perception of surf lifeguards? Why is that important to surf lifesaving? Well, pretty much the majority of our funding comes from public. It comes from the public sector. So if we want to be able to operate, we actually need money to be able to do what we do. When should you not wear your lifeguard uniform? It seems pretty obvious. Technically, on your way to patrol, anytime that you are not ready to rescue, ready to represent, you shouldn't really be in your uniform. At a dress-up party, surely that's obvious. We've had members try and go to the sevens in the rugby sevens in surf lifeguard uniforms, and it's such a bad look to have our professionals drinking at a sporting event in their uniform. It's just not okay at any function that's not approved by SLS. And yeah, as I say, if you're not actually ready to rescue, you shouldn't actually be in your uniform. Our everyday forms. Alright, so you've got your patrol captain's report, and the information gathered on your patrol captain's report has our surf conditions, our weather conditions, the equipment we have, the resources that we have on our beach today, who's patrolling, and throughout the day we'll fill out stats, and so we'll have a list of the number of rescues and searches that we did, for example. One that needs to be filled out as we put our boats on the beach, our IRB log, and we're trying to figure out, it's got a whole bunch of checklists on it, and it just makes sure that our IRBs are pumped up enough, that they don't have any, they're not leaking, that we don't have any broken bits on them. We want to know the condition of the hulls and the engines. And there's also space to list who your drivers and crew persons are. These are really good checks to make sure that we are meeting the specifications of our Patrol Operations Manual, our POM. For example, if you've got an IRB on the beach, you need to have a qualified driver on the beach. So obviously there should be a qualified driver written on your IRB log. Yeah, so we want to make sure that anything that was listed, we check the IRB log to check that nothing is broken, and if anything was broken the last time it got used, did it get fixed, and was the gear steward notified? That's the handy thing about our IRB log. Incident report forms. Now this is where it gets a bit interesting. So you have incident report forms, and that's the overall event of a particular incident, so a specific record of a particular incident. For example, 4 patients were pulled out of a rip and rescued via IRB, and we've got some spaces there. You've got 5 spaces there to put in basic patient details, rescue details, equipment used, stuff like that. If any of those people actually need further medical attention. Even I'm thinking maybe we've got a junior surf person who has rolled their ankle, or maybe a member of the public who's playing volleyball and has rolled their ankle, for example. If they're going to need ACC, we want to make sure that we have an incident report form filled out for them, but also a patient report form needs to be filled out as well. So anyone with further medical treatment, we want to make sure we're filling out that paper form. Now, if you think about those two situations, both of those things are kind of minor. And on our patrol captain's report form, they'll be recorded as a minor first aid, and we'll list that we did an incident report form for that. Now let's take the example of 4 patients were pulled from a rip and rescued via IRB, but let's say now that 2 of them required CPR. I mean, we've got an ambulance on the way, so most definitely we need to fill out a patient report form for those ones that have required CPR. On our patrol captain's report form, it'll say that we've done 2 major first aids as well. That's the CPRs. But those other 2 patients, if they're fine and don't need any extra help, we haven't referred them on anywhere, then they can just be on the incident report form and don't need to have a patient report form filled out. There's one other form that is really handy for Surf Lifesaving Northern Region, and it's our members accident or injury form. So, for example, one of our surf lifeguards ripped his Achilles running into the water during a refresher training, during his refresher run swim run. He's going to need medical attention for that, obviously. So we want to fill out our incident report form, we need to fill out our patient report form for that person, but because he's a surf lifeguard, we also need to fill out our members accident form as well. And that just gives Surf Lifesaving Northern Region a heads up that someone's been injured. Otherwise, the way that Northern Region finds out is when our Surf Lifesaving New Zealand paperwork gets filed by our club secretary, and Surf Lifesaving New Zealand has to tell Northern Region. It just means that we cut out that middleman and we're letting everyone know at once. Yeah, so really there's 4, possibly 5 forms that you could be filling out in any one day. The ones that you must fill out: patrol captain's report form, IRB log, and if any incidents happen, an incident report form. If anyone needs further medical help, patient report form, and possibly also a members report form. What's the difference between preventative actions and safety interventions? Okay, so on your patrol captain's report, there are spaces for us to write down how many times we actually identified a potentially dangerous situation and took precautionary action to prevent the situation from developing into a real emergency. And so examples of that could be that we have picked up glass from the beach, and that would mean that how many people we intervened on behalf of is our safety interventions. They've changed the wording slightly. It's people involved now, but still. For example, if you move the flags because the rip that's in front of the tower is getting too strong, it's becoming dominant as that tide changes, we slide our flags north. That's one preventative action, but it's involving all of the people that are in the water. So that would be one PA involving 50 people in the water, and we'd recorded it as such on our patrol captain's report form. Yeah, they're important because doing any one of these actions results in us intervening for the safety of many. These daily records are used for statistical analysis and shows just how important surf lifeguards are. Think of all the emergencies that were avoided because of your preventative action. These are generally, I've found over the years, really under-recorded. Sometimes you'll hear clubs doing, 10 preventative actions in a day. I mean, for us at Bethel's, every time you speak to someone to tell them that they're not going to be able to get over that creek, for example, in the next hour. So maybe don't go over to O'Neill's. Those sort of things. Every time that you tell a member of public that it's not actually safe for them to let their kids swim in that in the lagoon because it has unsafe water readings, according to the Auckland Council Safe Swim Initiative. That's a preventative action. So you're intervening on behalf of those people, and we need to record those as such so that we can get an accurate picture of just how much work we actually do on the beach, and we actually do a hell of a lot. Alright, if we're driving at Bethel's, our ATVs, our all-terrain vehicles, we have the Yamaha series, and we have Rhinos, and so the things that we must have to drive our Rhinos, you've got to have a current driver's license, restricted or higher. You've got to wear a seatbelt and helmet. Technically, this has got a roll cage, but we're going to see things change as we come into the next season, where, as always, we should be maintaining the manufacturer's standards. So if Yamaha says that we should be wearing a helmet with these vehicles, then we should be wearing a helmet with these vehicles. That's Surf Life Saving New Zealand's stance on it as well. Things we must carry: a first aid kit, tube and fins, and a radio in a splash-proof case. At Bethel's, we keep a defib in each of our vehicles, but technically it's not POM, it's just preferred that we have one in there in each of those vehicles. So if you're going in one of these vehicles, you just need to check in that tray to make sure that you actually have a tube and fins in there, and that you've got a radio with you. Some of our Rhinos have a base set radio built into them as well. Right, here's an average day patrolling at Bethel's from a couple of seasons ago. This is made by Rory. Cool. And so a couple of things have changed since that video's been made, especially out at Bethel's. Things like we don't sit in our boat while it's driving anymore, or in the tray of our rhino, just in terms of health and safety. Also, rock work is to be done with helmets on, just because of the risk of head injuries and stuff like that. But other than that, you can see there's such a high propensity for, you've got a really high chance of having a decent amount of fun at the beach. So incident management. Some of the things that you'll need for an incident. If we're dealing with a water-based incident, we definitely want to make sure that we've informed other patrol members of the incident using the 4 Ps. And this might be the first time you've heard of the 4 Ps. The 4 Ps are position, problem, people, progress. So they're really important to remember. They'll come up in your lifeguard exam when you sit down with your examiner to do some communication work with your radio, and that's one of the questions that they'll make sure that you know, because that's the order that we report any situations in. So that again, those 4 Ps are position, problem, people, progress. After we've done that, making sure that we're assessing the situation before we enter the water. We want to choose the correct and appropriate equipment for the incident. So is this a rescue that I can do with tube and fins, or do I need to get an IRB driver to do this? Or maybe we've got our RWC, our rescue watercraft, handy, and they're going to be the best to be able to do this. Now, in your workbook, not only do I need you to have what to do in a water-based incident written down, but I also need you to write down who we might need to contact. And all of this stuff, police, ambulance, Westpac Rescue Helicopter Trust, or possibly Coast Guard, depending on which coast you're on, all of that can be tasked, thankfully in the northern region, through SurfCom, our communication centre. So you don't have to ring those yourself. We'll call SurfCom, and SurfCom will organise all of that stuff. And the best part about that means that we're also going to have an incredible senior team standing behind that person who's talking to you over the radio or over the phone, getting those resources to you, so you can concentrate on what you're good at, and some amazing senior leadership people can help you get a really nice, smooth event for a positive outcome. Yep. So we definitely want to make sure that we're calling all this stuff in through SurfCom. Land-based incidents. Again, all of this stuff we can get the help we need through SurfCom, our rescue centre. And for a land-based incident, we want to task the surf lifeguards that are trained in higher first aid. Emergency services should be contacted, and for us in Northern Region, we do that through SurfCom. People we might need, police, the ambulance, Westpac helicopter, the fire department. The police also deal with Landsar as well. That's how we'd get those guys tasked out if we're doing some kind of land-based search. The other one to think about is a cliff incident or a cliff fall. We want to make sure that if a patient can be rescued without getting yourself or another guard into danger, then we're fine to do it. If it's too dangerous, the police need to be contacted immediately. You might need police, we might need ambulance, you might need Westpac helicopter or fire department. All of those people are handy. We want to make sure that we contact police if we can't get someone down safely, and that's just because they have a full Landsar cliff rescue team that is trained in that sort of stuff, and they have all the ropes and equipment for it as well. Missing persons. Alright, our key responsibilities, the things that we have to do, we want to first and foremost obtain as much information as possible about the person or persons from the informant. We want to keep the informant with us. That way we can ask them more questions as well. I mean, what if this is a missing parent, a missing child, and the parent has gone off to look, found their kid, and has forgotten to come back and tell you. Meanwhile, you've activated police, and you've got all your lifeguards searching for this missing kid, when really that kid's been found. So we always want to keep that informant with us. If that parent wanted to join the search, we can send them with a lifeguard with a radio to join that search as well. We want to make sure that we are alerting the patrol captain. The patrol captain will task our lifeguards accordingly and maintain patrol, hopefully. That's the goal, that no matter what we do, we'd be maintaining patrol as well. Now, key questions that we want to ask. Firstly, what was the last known location of the person or persons that we're looking for? And secondly, if the person or persons was in the water, did you see him or her submerge? It changes our time frame, makes it much more dangerous if that person was in the water, and especially if we saw that person submerge. Thirdly, the general details, the name, the gender, the age, complexion, what that person was wearing, a description of their surfboard, all that stuff. The other thing to think about for key responsibilities is another job you might need to do. Your key responsibility might actually be as a member of the search party. And if you're unable to locate the person, then we're calling the police. That's who we need for our missing persons. And that's the end of our roles and responsibilities section. See you for the next one.